This is the video I was trying to do for the last few days, but I got extremely busy and could not do it. So we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk hot topics, trending topics, what's going on in the media. So we're going to talk about the couple above. Jello is actually allegedly getting a divorce. Many people did not even know they were married. Many people knew that they were dating, but many people did not know that they were dating, but they didn't know that they were married. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk Diddy. The young lady was on Pierce Morgan, and that's what I have been trying to do for the last few days, but I didn't get a chance. But now it's on Shade Room, Neighborhood Talk. Everybody's talking about it. So we're going to get to a few different topics. Allow me a few moments to get into my system so that way we can conversate about it. Um, Sometimes when I try and change the thumbnail, I went from green sign to yellow sign. So sometimes my pictures are what they are. It is what it is. So we're going to get through a few different things. But she had a lot to say on Pierce Morgan. Am I surprised? No, I'm not. I'm not at all. But I'm going to go ahead, get through my disclaimer, and then we're going to conversate about what people are talking about, what her conversation was. Pierce had asked her a question in regards to have you and Diddy ever slept together, and she kind of hesitated, and it's almost we'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Hold on one second. But like the videos, you guys come in. I appreciate you all for being here. Like I said, this was a video I wanted to do a few days ago, but I just did not get a chance. So I'm going to start mixing in other hot topics. So Jello and his girlfriend doesn't have anything to do with the Diddy situation, but we're going to combine topics. Yes, we are. And then you know what's so interesting? I I've said this before. I pay attention to a lot of stuff. I had noticed that the Ball brothers was on Kai Sanat, and I watched a little bit of that this morning. So I don't know if the Ball brothers are trying to help Jello change the narrative of what's going on out there regarding him and his situationship. And I call it a situationship because, here it is. Jello files for divorce from her last name's Nicole, just a week after she announced her pregnancy. So if you did not know, Miss Nicole, she announced that she was pregnant. Now, if you did not know, Jello, the guy in the baseball cap, he was dating Nikki Baby. I think they have two children together because I remember her being pregnant. I remember Jello's dad saying, I'm proud of Jello dating Nikki Baby. She has her own house, she has her own cars, da 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 da. And like a month or two later, Jello shows up with this new young lady. So it's interesting how now they're allegedly getting a divorce. Many people were like, hold on. We remember her announcing the pregnancy. We didn't know y'all was married. So why is he divorcing her after her announcement of pregnancy? Why are they getting a divorce? And they haven't been together for long. He was with Nikki Baby for way longer. Yes, he was. He was with Nikki Baby for way longer. So, yeah, it's just interesting. But many people are saying, well, wow. And then, like I told y'all, he was on Kai Sanat just either yesterday or the day before. Yeah. Yep. She announced that she's expecting her first child. I want to say within the last 3 or 4 weeks she announced it, or she announced it last month. Congratulations. They were talking about she's married to Jello. Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. He said ice, ice. But yeah, it's kind of sad they're already going through that. Now, if y'all don't know about the Ball brothers, there's Jello Mello and I don't know. I know about Jello Mello, and there's another one. The one that's on the screen, he had a situationship. I'm gonna just be general. If you did not know, LeVar Ball is a father that wanted all his sons to go into the NBA. The oldest son got into the NBA. Jello was projected to go into the NBA, and he had a situationship out of the country was something got taken and he was detained and other teammates were detained, and then he was able to get out of the detainment, and that kind of messed up his career. Their family having a lot of money, there's no need for him to take anything, or but there's that situation. So then the younger brother, Ball brother, he was doing really well in regards to the league, really, really well. So the father did get his wish in regards to his sons doing well. So now we realize that Jello is dating Nikki Baby. Seems kind of cool, Nikki's she's well off. She's done her reality show stint, and so when people popped up and saw Jello and Nikki Baby together, they were like, oh, "Okay, that's kind of cute." She's older, but that's kind of cute. But then he broke up with Nikki Baby and started dating this Miss Nicole. So here nor there, they're about to have a baby. So that's going to be Jello's third child, and allegedly he's about to go through a divorce. Let me see if there was another picture. Hold on one second. Yeah, we'll stick with this one. So yeah, so there's that. So we're going to get into the interview with Pierce Morgan, and we're going to hear what she has to say. So if you guys don't know, she's almost alluding to looking back years later, if something could have happened. Hold on one second. That I think sent certain people down the direction. Okay, I'm not going to play that because there's music in the background. So let's go ahead and get to the interview. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like the video as you guys come in. This is something I wanted to cover anyway, and now we're going to cover it. Hold on one second. Let me see if I want to put them just on the screen. Yeah. Okay. I did do one just with Pierce Morgan speaking with... I don't like the nickname they gave her, but they gave her the nickname of Superhead. I'm going to just go ahead and say it. So she's talking with Pierce Morgan about the case. We're going to go ahead and get into that. This was about a day ago. So yeah, I've been trying to get to it, and I just couldn't. So let's get to the video.
I lost literally 30 days ago for 640 million, pal.
Censored, Elizabeth. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of people are kind of aware of your history with Diddy, but for those who know nothing about it, how would you categorize your time with him?
My time with Sean was honestly pleasant in the beginning. To my recollection, the first time we met, we spent the night together, but he was a consummate gentleman with me in that evening, again, to my recollection. And every other time I saw him after that was in a group setting, so it was fine. The last time I saw him, however, things had taken a bit of a turn. It was after Confessions of a Video Vixen, my first book, had been published, and he was seething when he saw me Prince had a party at his house, and we were there, of course, before Prince died, and he was scowling at me the whole night, and I found it amusing, but he was obviously very angry with me by that point in our relationship.
Why was he so angry with you?
Well, 4 months before Confessions...
Can you guys hear me okay? Like the video. Can you guys hear me okay? Press 1 if you can hear me okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Confessions was published in 2005. We got a call from Sean's attorney, my attorney did, and Sean's attorney wanted to see the book before the book came out. Confessions of a Video Vixen was an embargoed book, so no one could see it. No one would even get it until the publication date, which is June 5th of that year. And so my attorney told his attorney that he could not get the book, and that they would have to wait until the book came out like everyone else, and if they saw a problem in the book, that they were free to reach back out to us, sue us, whatever they felt was necessary. We knew that wouldn't happen because HarperCollins is the publisher of that book, as you know, is a News Corp entity, and those attorneys made sure it was vetted to the fullest, so Sean could never sue, he could never raise any objection to it. And I think he always hated me after that because I left enough. I posed questions in that book that that I think sent certain people down the direction that leads us to where we are now.
Just explain that a little more. What were the questions you think that you're talking about?
Well,
I'm tired of everybody asking me.
Fair
how
use,
to do
reaction
this
clip,
act.
fair use.
So listen up right now.
She's gonna make it seem like at times Diddy was concerned about what she was gonna put in the book, not knowing what she remembered, didn't remember, and remember, this is so long ago. But she said he kept acting panicky, concerned. And this is not the first time we're hearing that he would request something before it comes out. He wants to control the narrative, and we get it, of his image. But when you have a young lady that's writing a book, he wanted to control the narrative of what was going to transpire, and he seemed extremely nervous. But we're going to get into her thoughts and feelings on what transpired, what happened. But let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
honestly, I'm just now getting context on a lot of the questions that I had then. After the trial gave me way more context. But just about, I think, his sexual proclivities, and what we saw in hanging out with him, the kind of clubs he took us to, even conversations he and I had. One in particular where I didn't understand it at the time. And honestly, Piers, I'm getting new understanding about this line of questioning. I wrote about this in Confessions, where my boyfriend and I at the time had gone to his home for New Year's Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve kind of festivities. And he pulled me to the side and was just like, we're friends, right? We're friends. And I was like, yeah, we're friends. And like, we're good. And I'm like, yeah, we're good. And I couldn't figure out what he meant. And I wrote about this where I didn't know what he was talking about. And he just kind of went on to say, I have kids, I have a mom, and if anything got out, it would really hurt them. And I honestly, at that point in stage, did not know or remember what he was talking about. And so we just kind of laughed it off. Like, what's going on with him? And things like he said to my boyfriend, like, don't trust her. She might have her on video with, in precarious positions. And this is back before cell phone cameras. So I was just like, what video? I didn't understand any of it. Now after the trial and the things that have come out from the trial, this gives these conversations a lot more context. But at the time when Confessions came out, it did make us all wonder, what was he so afraid of? I didn't even know what I had seen or didn't see, or if there's something happened that I didn't remember from our time together. But he was very afraid that I would say something in the book. And honestly, I think he never contacted us back because what he thought I was going to say, I did not say. Possibly because I didn't remember it.
What do you think he was fearful of you saying?
I have to be honest, Piers, in booking this time with you today, and your producer asked me to kind of send over some pages from the book. I hadn't read Confessions since I wrote it, and I read it for the audio version, and that was 2005. It's been 20 years since I read this book. And in reading what I sent over, which is what I just described to you right now, I wonder a lot of things.
Like the video. Please subscribe to the page. There's about 99 in the building. Please subscribe. We're almost at 40K. Thanks for being here, everyone.
I was so afraid that I knew something. And I was confused because the only time that we had together prior to this conversation was alone time at his home, wherein I felt we had a good time. I didn't know, he didn't come on to me. It was very platonic, I thought. So I was confused as to what was it? And so I have to admit, my mind kind of races now that I have more context of his proclivities and what he's capable of what he was so afraid of, what he thought I knew or what he thought I remembered.
I mean, in the book, you talk about the first time you met Diddy in a nightclub at 3 a.m. You said, right there in front of me, Diddy and Gotti, who was the Murder Inc. Records boss of Gotti, made arrangements to send me to Diddy's house in 1 hour. It was 4 a.m. I turned up to Diddy's home in my SUV. There were security guards in the driveway, all dressed in dark suits with their hands in front of them. They had been expecting me. The things that went on when Gotti and I were together are almost unimaginable to me now. But in the haze of drugs and liquor, it all seemed all right. I was being used over and over again, man after man, all friends and acquaintances of Gotti's. I quickly became Gotti's showpiece. He would turn other people in the industry onto me. I was his party favor. Whenever there was anyone Gotti wanted to impress, he would send them to me, and I'd take care of them.
Wow.
I mean, could it be that what Sean Combs was worried about was that he facilitated this very transactional relationship that you had with Irv Gotti? Is that part of this?
I don't think that was it. And honestly, I think it was more insidious than that. The fear, the fright that he had during that conversation at his Miami home, back in whatever year that was, he seemed terrified that I had known something. And I just don't know what he thought I knew or remembered. the transactional nature of how we met, and which is why, I said in various interviews before that I was gifted to him. It was because no one asked me if I wanted to go. No one asked me. They talked about me as if I wasn't there. I was property to cart around.
Wow.
And that's what they did. If they would have asked me, I still would have gone. So I didn't hold any objection at the time because I would have still done it. Being 21 and it's Diddy and we're having fun and it's just a Saturday night out in LA.
Like the video. Fair use reaction clip. She did an interview with Piers Morgan a few days ago. This is the video I've been telling you guys that I was going to do, and I hadn't had a chance to do it. She is trending on Neighborhood Talk. She's trending on Shade Room, and I do believe Hollywood Unlocked also covered it. But yeah, she is the nickname Superhead. Yeah, she's talking about her time. Hollywood, and it almost seems as if she was she's like she said, a party favor. So why we cover certain things, we want women to be careful. We want women to be careful. In a lot of these situations, a woman is with a man. They're going to events by themselves. And it seems as if she was somewhat passed around like a party favor. Women have to be careful. Not all money is good money. You got to protect yourself. You got to be careful. This is a woman that's been in the industry. And she's been kind of quiet for years. She's been in the industry for many years. Many years. So let's continue with the video. I'm just kind of giving you guys. Her nickname is Superhead. That's the nickname that she goes by. I can't confirm or deny what she's saying is true. That's why we give our disclaimer and we talk about what's being talked about. Did I do it? Let me see. Hold on one second. Hold on. Am I tripping? I don't think I did. Hold on one second. I didn't do it. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Sorry, y'all. I thought I did my disclaimer. I didn't. I got started and didn't do my disclaimer. And normally I do. That's like the first thing I do. So sorry I had to take a moment to do that, but got to protect the page. Okay, so we're going to get back to the video in regards to her thoughts and feelings of what happened with her and Diddy and people in the industry. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Not your average bruise. They're sourced from 250-year-old wild trees in the Himalayan foothills, which are untouched by modern farming. No,
that's a commercial.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you actually have any kind of sexual relationship with Diddy at all?
No, Diddy and I did not know. Well, not to my knowledge.
So, what do you mean by that?
Not to my knowledge. I don't. Honestly, I'm questioning a lot of things right now.
What do you think?
So not to my knowledge. No, I don't think anything right now. Just not to my knowledge, because honestly...
That's a very strange response, though, to not remember whether you did or not.
Yeah, isn't it? It is. Yeah, it is. Because honestly, Piers, before I went through my text, I hadn't read Confessions in 20 years. I wrote it. It was painful to write. So I never wanted to re-traumatize myself and go through those years again. And think about this. I'm a middle-aged woman at this point. I don't want to go back into my 20s and see what happened. But in gathering information for this interview here, reading that passage again for the first time in 20 years, I questioned a lot of things. Like, well, why was he so afraid? And why did he try to, make my boyfriend feel as if I wasn't trustworthy? And
do you think he took advantage of you when you were under the influence of...
She can't recall. And that's why, because people are trying to state, and we can't confirm or deny, if people are waking up and they can't recall what happened, what transpired. They call Karrine Steffans, but nickname alleged Superhead. I can't confirm or deny what she's saying is true. Okay, the commercial has gone past. Please like the video, you guys, as you guys come in. Please subscribe to the page. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
But do you think that's the case now from everything you've read?
Honestly, yes. Given the context, now that I know, because again, I never knew any of these things about him before. So the things that I learned in the trial, I did not know.
Yeah, that's the nickname.
I did not know. I never understood. And again, in 2005, when I published Confessions, it says I didn't understand why he was so fearful of me, because our time together was pleasant. And I was like, wait, what is he so afraid of? What does he not want me to tell? I didn't see anything at that point. At that point, I hadn't seen anything. At that point, we had, I thought, just a friendly, platonic night together. So I was confused then. And 20 years later, I'm confused now. So to my knowledge, I've never had sex with Sean Combs. We never had that kind of relationship.
But you can't be sure.
Given what we know now, I can't be sure.
And how does that make you feel?
And that saddens me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
It saddens me, honestly. Yeah, because honestly, during this entire process, I've been shying away from publicity and just letting the trial unfold. I knew things from just being around and people talking, but I didn't know what was going to come out. There was a few things that I saw that without context were strange to me, but I didn't understand them until the trial. And so I've been quiet this whole time, and I disappeared off of social. I just disappeared for the past year waiting for this thing to unfold. In the unfolding of what I believe to be facts, and definitely the testimonies of Cassie and Jane and even some of the men, and then looking back at the text, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, when he said, if anything got out, and I remember at the time being so confused, like anything like what got out? Like nothing happened. We hung out, you were kind. At some point I went to sleep, I don't know when, but I woke up and then we had breakfast and you were kind and I left. Nothing happened. I don't know, Pierce, I feel, just in the last 24 hours, I question what I thought I knew about my time with him.
You detailed in your books romantic relationships with a lot of famous people from that world: Jay-Z, DMX, Van Diesel, Lil Wayne, Method Man, even Bill Maher, LL Cool J, Mr. Carl, and others. You had a lot of famous...
She is smiling while he is giving those names. Let's go back so he can tell us those names again. She's smiling. As he's giving the names, she's smiling. Okay, that's her past, whatever. Like the video, fair use reaction clip.
Guys you dated, and who knows what the nature of what happened with Diddy was about, but do you feel that this whole world has now changed irrevocably as a result of what happened?
Hold on.
That make you feel?
And that saddens me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
It saddens me, honestly. Yeah, because honestly, during this entire process, I've been shying away from publicity and just letting the trial unfold. I knew things from just being around and people talking, but I didn't know what was going to come out. There was a few things that I saw that without context were strange to me, but I didn't understand them until the trial. And so I've been quiet this whole time, and I disappeared off of social. I just disappeared for the past year waiting for this thing to unfold. In the unfolding of what I believe to be facts, and definitely the testimonies of Cassie and Jane and even some of the men, and then looking back at the text, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, when he said, if anything got out, and I remember at the time being so confused, like anything like what got out? Like nothing happened. We hung out, you were kind. At some point I went to sleep, I don't know when, but I woke up and then we had breakfast and you were kind and I left. Nothing happened. I don't know, Pierce, I feel, just in the last 24 hours, I question what I thought I knew about my time with him.
You detailed in your books romantic relationships with a lot of famous people from that world: Jay-Z, DMX, Van Diesel, Lil
allegedly,
Wayne, Method Man, even Bill Maher, LL Cool J, Mr. Carl, and others. You had a lot of famous guys you dated, and who knows what the nature of what happened with Diddy was about. But
allegedly,
do you feel that this whole world has now changed irrevocably as a result of what happened to Diddy?
No, because nothing has happened to Diddy. Nothing has happened to Sean at all. What has happened here is that, here's the deal. It's not a Diddy issue. Like, Diddy is a problem, but he's not the problem, okay? He's not the problem. From Cosby to Combs, Weinstein to Epstein, and everything in between, they're all different tentacles of the same beast. And this is a story as old as time. The abuses of men, men in power especially, men with money, and I think it only increases over time as women become more free and more liberated, being able to make our own money, being able to, buy our own homes, being able to start our own businesses. I think it only enrages the men who hold power that they're losing power. And so I felt that over time, in my experience over the last 20-something years that I've been in this town, that the men are increasingly more aggressive and more so wanting to keep women under control and in power because they are losing power, even legally so. I don't think that the Diddy trial has changed anything other than it probably fuels this issue more than anything, because here's the deal. Two of the toughest charges have been dropped. He's facing up to 20 with time served. Yeah, he's denied bail, but how much time is he really going to get? Probably maybe 3 years, might be out on probation, might have to wear an ankle bracelet like Martha Stewart, and everything's going to be fine. And then what happens is that no one's paying attention to the fact that there are a lot of men who aren't saying anything, who are very quiet, as well as men especially, and women, who are supporting him. And I fear, even with everything that we've heard, let's say none of that was true. We saw something, however, that tells us something about this person. We saw a videotape of him brutalizing Cassie, and that tells me everything I need to know about this person's character. So even if nothing else was true, that alone is enough reason for him to be canceled indefinitely. But I fear that's not what's going to happen. I think this is just emboldening more men to do the same thing, because guess what they're going to do? They're going to get away with it. There are men in this industry who have left this country, who are now living on islands and in different countries, to escape.
Who is she talking about when she said left the country? Like the video, please subscribe, and please continue to hit the like. All it is a double tapping of the screen. Please hit the like. To hit the like, it is free. Let's continue. Who's she talking left the country?
Persecution from things like this. There are men that I know personally who are involved in this, who have done things similar to this, who have parties like this. Diddy's not the only one. This is not a Sean Combs problem. This is a societal community issue here in this town. And it's not just the artists. It's also their attorneys, their publicists. It's the hotels. I was brutalized in a hotel, and guess what happened? That tape disappeared. When I went to get my police report from the police station, it was destroyed, all within 48 hours, to protect the person who had brutalized me. It is systemic.
First up,
like the video, fair use reaction clip. And see, remember how in court it talked about he went to go get that tape? He wanted to buy that tape. He had to get his hands on that tape.
Systemic. So it doesn't matter, if Diddy gets off or not, in the sense that it won't stop anything. I think if anything, it makes it all worse.
Well, that is a sobering way to end, but thank you very much indeed, Elizabeth Olsen. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, to debate all this, I'm joined by Tony Busby, the attorney representing...
So now we're about to hear from Attorney Busby. Attorney Busby is the one that allegedly filed the different lawsuits. And I've said this, and be very clear on my page. If he is going to file these lawsuits, there better be proof. Police reports, doctor notes, doctor reports, something. There's been different allegations in regards to what Attorney Busby has mentioned. And these people better have proof, because the civil allegations came out before the trial. Now that the trial is almost, Diddy's about to be sentenced. Now that he's about to be sentenced, the civil allegations can move forward. Will they have proof? Will they not have proof? We don't know. But there's been many allegations that did not come up in court that the civil allegations talked about. Baby oil having something in it. Nobody really talked about that. Really? No other men didn't say that certain things allegedly happened to them in the court hearing. It's been women that's fussed and complained. So many people are side-eyeing some of these civil allegations, and as we should. So let's hear what Attorney Busby has to say, because there better be proof. Because if there isn't proof, we're going to see if some of these are settled, if some of them are going to be thrown out. Just in regards to, think back, when we covered the Jay-Z allegations of what the girl had to say, I didn't believe it from day one. If your daddy gonna drive 5 hours, 4 hours, and he don't remember coming to get you, problem one. If you run into a gas station for help, nobody called the police. That's why the Jay-Z situation and the Diddy situation got thrown out. Because you're going to a gas station for help. No ambulance was called. No police was called. Your daddy just picked you up, and you and your daddy didn't speak for the whole 5 hours. We knew something wasn't right. And nobody really could corroborate her story, because the girl that took her there left her there. We knew something wasn't right. And then the girl that took her there allegedly passed away many years ago. So be careful in regards to you filing. A lot of attorneys won't take a case unless they feel that there's enough evidence or proof or witnesses or police reports or hospital records. But let's continue. Let's see what Attorney Busby has to say.
Diddy victims in civil suits. DJ Vlad, commentator and host of Vlad
DJ
TV,
Vlad,
uncensored contributor Esther Krakow. Esther, as we listen to that, what were you thinking?
And Esther.
I mean, what she said at the end there was very poignant. This is not a Diddy problem. This is an industry problem. I do find it quite telling that she said she was brutalized as well in a similar fashion that Cassie was. And then within 48 hours, the tape vanished. And I think a lot of the fault has to be laid at the nature of the system. But we used to say that all you need is consent, whether it's you sign consent or yes, we're good to go. But actually, when you contextualize it, these women that, okay, yes, they are drawn in by the glamour of being with someone like P. Diddy or a high-profile person, you can choose the names. They are drawn into the system, but nothing means that they deserve to be beaten up and treated like ragdolls in the way that Cassie and arguably this lady said. And so we need to be looking at the cultural issue as well. That's the fundamental issue. It's not just about you sign a piece of paper and you can make an NDA, keep you quiet or whatever. The culture is telling women that actually you can be treated this way because you happen to be in this space, and all that keeps everything above board is the legality. And unfortunately, the culture is our problem. It's not the problem of the federal prosecutors. It's the problem of us as a society, the PAs, the people that are handling the press releases, the law thought. And so I think in many ways that case was always going to fall through. But I do think that these girls have been let down by a culture that has boiled down.
I was going to try and fix the picture
legality and consent.
of who's speaking.
You posted on X.
So I still want to do that.
Cassie's guilty of the same prostitution charges
Hold
Diddy
on.
was just convicted of. I interviewed 3 of the male escorts.
Like the videos, y'all, come in.
Cassie picked them, contacted them for free calls, enjoyed the experiences and paid them. Meanwhile, she's sitting on $30 million and writing letters to the judge asking him not to give Diddy bail. So pretty clear what your view is of Cassie Ventura there. What do you think should happen to her?
Like the videos, y'all, come in.
When you spend $1 a day on your health, not shoes,
I'm putting the picture together right now, y'all. Hold on. So y'all know who's speaking. Like the videos, y'all, come in. Yes, it's black. I like to show y'all who talking and who's speaking. So just give me a second. Give me a second putting it together. Okay, now. Like the videos, y'all, come in. Y'all know me. I try and do stuff the best way I can. Y'all can still hear what's going on. Okay, making the collage right now. Like the videos, y'all, come in. Boom. Save changes. Okay, here we go. So this is the team of people that's speaking. Had to make it real quick. Y'all know me. I like to make sure y'all know who's talking, who's speaking, because the lady that's speaking is not Karrine. It's not Superhead anymore. So we had to adjust. So now we're ready to get back into it. Okay. Thanks for hanging in with me, y'all.
And I think a lot of the fault has to be laid at
This is the Piers Morgan panel.
the nature of the system. But we used to say that all you need is consent, whether it's you sign consent or yes, we're good to go. But actually, when you contextualize it, these women that, okay, yes, they are drawn in by the glamour of being with someone like P. Diddy or a high-profile person, you can choose the names. They are drawn into the system, but nothing means that they deserve to be beaten up and treated like ragdolls in the way that Cassie and arguably this lady said. And so we need to be looking at the cultural issue as well. That's the fundamental issue. It's not just about you sign a piece of paper and you can make an NDA, keep you quiet or whatever. The culture is telling women that actually you can be treated this way because you happen to be in this space, and all that keeps everything above board is the legality. And unfortunately, the culture is our problem. It's not the problem of the federal prosecutors. It's the problem of us as a society, the PAs, the people that are handling the press releases, the lawyers, everyone. They are part of the culture, that culture of subservience, and allowing these people to do things that are legally above board, but are horrible and just quite vile. I feel sorry for Cassie because I do think the prosecutors misled her. The case was very, very shoddy on many levels. You can't have a conspiracy with just one person. That's not a conspiracy, that's a thought. And so I think in many ways that case was always going to fall through. But I do think that these girls have been let down by a culture that has boiled down appropriate behavior to just legality and consent.
Okay, DJ Vlad, you posted on X after the verdicts came in. Cassie is guilty of the same prostitution charges Diddy was just convicted of. I interviewed 3 of the male escorts. All 3 of them said the same thing. Cassie picked them, contacted them for free calls, enjoyed the experiences and paid them. Meanwhile, she's sitting on $30 million and writing letters to the judge asking him not to give Diddy bail. So pretty clear what your view is of Cassie Ventura there. What do you think should happen to her?
So now Vlad's going to speak.
I think she should be charged with the same thing that Diddy was charged with. Ultimately,
So where is Diddy's assistants and people that helped him day to day and day in and day out? Many people are side-eyeing that KK didn't show up. How is he on trial by himself? Let's continue. Various reaction clip.
convicted of prostitution. She was involved in the prostitution. Every male escort that I talked to said that she was the one picking the actual male prostitutes. She would book them. She enjoyed every experience. She was sort of guiding the whole thing while they were together, and she was the one that actually paid them.
Allegedly.
Ultimately, this is a domestic violence case that's ballooned into a RICO and sex trafficking and so forth. What Diddy did to Cassie in that hallway was absolutely horrible, but that is not what the trial was about. It was about RICO. It was about sex trafficking, neither of which made sense in this particular trial. And if you want to actually convict her for prostitution, Cassie is just as liable for that same prostitution that Diddy got convicted of, but she was given immunity in the whole situation. So I just feel it's really just a messed up situation.
That's a completely ridiculous stance, because you know what the consequences of her, not booking those prostitutes? We saw it in that hallway in the hotel, in an international chain hotel, that were happy to take $50,000 to wipe it off the face of the earth. Those are the consequences. If she hadn't done that, it is very likely that she would have been manhandled in that way.
Be kind and respectful in the chat. We're listening and we're learning. This is what YouTube is. You know how many people are covering this today? There's been 4 that I saw prior to myself. Go over there in their chat. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
In the street, and someone would have been able to wipe the footage of that. I appreciate the fact that she hold on. I appreciate the fact that she was
not charged with domestic violence. Talking about totally different situation.
I guess the question that Esther's posing there really is, did she go along so apparently consensually with all the freak off stuff, with all these escorts, because she...
to that.
Well, hang on. My question is, did she go along with it in the apparently consensual way because she was in fear of retribution from Diddy in a way we saw with the beating?
No, I don't think so. At the end of the day, this was an artist that had one hit song 20-something years ago. She had the ability to leave at any point. She was signed to a label, but labels leave artists that don't react constantly. She could have went. She stayed because she wanted to be in that particular situation. Now, people are going to argue with me and so forth, but at the end of the day, she stayed because there's no one else that was offering her a record deal. There's no one else that was spending millions of dollars on her. There's no one else that was showering her with gifts. So she decided to stay. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when the money ran out, when she married a broke fitness trainer and had to go move back in with her parents, the money completely ran out, then it's like, okay, let's sue Diddy and let's get $20 million out of him.
Wow.
That's my take on it. That's always been my take. That always will be my take.
Okay, Tony Paz, we're going to bring you in here. Just first off, what do we think is going to happen to Diddy here? What sentence are you anticipating?
I'm expecting...
Like the video. This is an interview from Piers Morgan. This is the panel. Let's continue. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And thank you. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
2 to 4 years, I would expect. And he's not going to get 20 years, obviously. He's already has time served. There's going to be some mitigating factors. He doesn't have a prior record. However, there are some issues within the case that might be reasons for the judge to go a little bit higher than perhaps normal. But I would expect 2 to 4 years.
And that
so
allegedly,
probably just did the coolest thing I've
allegedly,
seen
that's what a lot of people are saying. 2 to 4. Now it's up to the judge's discretion. Let's wait till the ad goes past. I hope you guys can hit the like button and please subscribe and thank you. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
You've obviously represented many Diddy victims in civil actions. You had over 100 people come to you with various allegations. What impact does this verdict have on the suits that you want to proceed with?
0. I mean, I was listening to Vlad there for a minute, and I'm sure that same kind of argument took place in the jury room. I mean, people have a hard time putting their head around a situation where somebody might consent one day and not consent the next. And there are people in this world that believe, well, you've consented once, so therefore you're consenting for life. That is not what the law says, and I can understand why there may have been people on that jury that have the same point of view, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that there's a lot of psychological issues here that people really don't understand about trauma bonding and how somebody might feel compelled to do something that they really don't want to do. But even if they said no one time, that is not consent. And I think in this trial, we didn't have the benefit, or at least I didn't have the benefit of watching it day to day and seeing each witness and hearing how they said the things they said. All I was able to see was the transcript that I would receive on a daily basis. Obviously, the jury thought that the RICO situation was complete baloney. They thought, apparently, that this was not a RICO situation. There was no conspiracy, and they were trying to put a round peg into a square hole or vice versa. I did think that, given the testimony that I saw, that there were instances where Cassie and Jane were forced to do things, either through financial pressure or through extortion-type pressure or through force, things that they did not want to do.
But the interesting thing on that, Tony, is that the jury clearly did not believe either woman when it came to any issue about consensuality. They just didn't.
Were you guys surprised that they didn't believe the women? Let me know in the comments. Do you think it's because of the text messages, or do you think it's because they continued? Why do you think that the jury did not believe the women? And because a lot of them stayed for years and years, and then stating that they still had love for him. Do you think the stating they still have love for him? Let me know in the comments. Fair use reaction clip.
Believe any of it. I think pretty much across the board, it was clear they had not bought in to the suggestion that any of this was non-consensual.
No question. I mean, I think you're right. And, you know, sometimes juries do things that we don't expect. You know, I go back to whether, you know, each instance that this happened, did he have consent each time? And I see Blythe's point. There were times when it looks like that Cassie was involved in setting some of these. Well,
there's no question of that. I interviewed the Punisher, you know, the guy who gave evidence. He gave very powerful, eloquent evidence. And I've interviewed him several times. He's a very good talker, and he had no real kind of skin in the game. In fact, he was brought from the prosecution to give evidence, but actually ended up being a pretty powerful witness for the defense, it turned out, because what he said was everything was done through Cassie Ventura and seemed very consensual. Went on for over 2 years, you know, a dozen or so encounters in hotels where Diddy just sat in the corner saying nothing. She booked him, she paid him, she organized it, everything was driven by her. She seemed to have a good time.
But was it the money from her bank account, though? Remember how he stated that he was going to put the video out and then the mom had to pay the money and she had to take out a loan and then he gave the money back? Was Cassie really paying, or was it his money and she was paying? But remember how, was it Jane said, no, I don't want to, but then he got off the phone with her and then he set it up anyway. So there was times he was calling people too. And I don't know if KK did, I don't recall, but like the video, fair use reaction clip. All in all, it's toxic and it's concerning. What guy wants to see his man get, you know, have situations with another man? Real talk. And then you want to play in the juices afterwards. They played in the juices afterwards. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Everyone was happy. I thought that was very powerful evidence, actually, for Diddy, because it seemed to contradict everything that they were trying to position it as, which was this was all coercion.
Let me offer this up. You know, the government settled in on using 2 alleged victims. They used Cassie and they used Jane. Early on, when this all started.
And he dated more people than Jane and Cassie. Let's be very clear. He dated more people than Jane and Cassie. Why didn't those women take the stand? The Fed should have got those women on the stand, period. And since they didn't, the case is what it is. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
We were contacted by the U.S. Attorney, and they asked us, can we speak to some of your clients? So we went to, and they told us, these are the ones we want to speak to. We made those people available. They talked to a couple of those people. But I think by that point, they had decided, their team had decided that they had what they needed. They had the goods, if you will, to proceed with Jane and with Cassie. I think that was a mistake.
That was a big mistake.
Say, as I watched the trial, or at least learned about the trial daily as it went on, I thought the government was doing what they needed to do to get a conviction. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they did not believe that they believed that Diddy had consent, and they didn't believe there was a conspiracy. And obviously, the transportation.
And the jury made a decision, and they had to respect that. Now, mind you, remember how Gina, nobody could find Gina, allegedly, she was MIA. But then once the jurors start deliberating, Gina was at the grocery store. But for a while, 6 to 7 weeks, really, nobody ran into Gina at no grocery stores or anything out and about. They ran into Gina when she was at the grocery store when the jury was deliberating.
To commit prostitution, that was pretty cut and dried, and I think everybody, no matter which side you fall out on, believed that there would be a conviction there.
But there is a point, isn't there, that which Vlad made, I thought, pretty compellingly, that if you're going to convict Diddy and you don't believe that it was non-consensual and Cassie did all the booking, why is she not being charged? And could it be that the reason that she turned on Diddy was to preempt potentially some legal exposure herself?
Who knows? We'll never know that. They gave her immunity early on, and they that's the horse they rode with. And we see what happened.
Well, I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think consent without fear of consequences is not, with fear of consequences, is not actually consent. So if you were going against Cassie, for example, you're going to try her, all she has to do is show you that video and just say, look at what happens if I didn't do that. Now, I don't think it reached the threshold for the jury for RICO, which I completely understand. Like I said, a conspiracy that involves one is a thought. But this is why I say this is not a problem for the courts. It's a problem for culture and society. Cassie met P. Diddy when she was 17 years old. She signed a 10-album deal with P. Diddy by the age of like 20 or 21, which is virtually unheard of in this industry. I mean, I'm sorry, she wasn't Beethoven. She didn't have the kind of talent that would warrant that kind of record deal. She was clearly groomed. Now, amongst all of that, could you say she could have got up and left? Okay, arguably, yes.
It was within 10 years.
Yes, but the thing is, he had
so many... She was within 10 years, and the Punisher was very clear.
Yes,
she did not give any impression to him of being anything but a very enthusiastic and willing participant.
Y'all got to remember, those people were on substances, right? If you're not well and you're on substances, you're not acting right. You're not thinking straight. She was with him for years. Look what happened when she tried to date other people. Look what happened when she tried to date Cuddy. Look what happened when she tried to date outside of him. That's the biggest thing, too. in the trial, whoever Cassie wanted to date, their names were outed. But in regards to this other rapper that did something similar to Diddy, they kept their name private. Yes, they did. Whoever Cassie was dating, they made sure that name was public. But whoever the other rapper is that's doing similar things as Diddy, they kept that name private and it was not outed. And it took a lot of distractions from the court where they did not want to tell who that person that Jane hung out with, they didn't want to give their name, which is interesting. Did y'all catch that, T? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. It is what it is. The jury made a decision. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Look at what happened when she tried to break up with him and date, what's his name, the rapper, who had his car blown up. I mean, it's not that cut and dry.
That's a good point. She couldn't date, but he wanted her to get piped. That's a good point. That's basically what I've been saying. And then most women, okay, you want to meet with me in the morning? You want to meet with me at night? But these people were going for days. 2 to 3 men in a 2 to 1 day period. Men, constant men. When you think about that, some of us don't even want to have relations with our partner only but. That's not me. But some people don't even want to have relations with their partner but once or twice a week. Some people are fine with once a day, but she was days in and days out, 2 or 3 men a day. That's crazy to me.
I feel like...
We have lots of chats through the Me Too era and stuff, and obviously one of the things people are saying about this is that, in a way, it signals the beginning of the end of that Me Too movement, because for a long time, everyone was encouraged to believe women accusers. At the moment they made allegations, they had to be believed. That was always, to me, a very dangerous proposition. It should always be they should be taken seriously, the allegations should be investigated properly, and then decisions should be made about whether there had been a crime. Very dangerous to believe accusers before you actually know whether they're telling the truth. But here we've got a situation, I think, where if he'd been in this case 3-4 years ago, he would have gone down.
I don't think
I think the jury, I suspect, has moved with the times.
I think the whole Me Too issue was a separate kind of beast.
Okay, this person
Fair
said that
use
this
reaction
Tesla
clip.
thing is a scam.
And then remember when Cassie said, well, why can't we bring a girl in the room? And then allegedly in the court documents, it was like, why would you want to do that? Allegedly, they played in juices, y'all, after certain situations. And some of these guys had to present and release. And he was mad if they didn't release. Let me continue.
Different kind of sleeves. And also, it was very cut and dry.
Is it though? Is it any different to Harvey Weinstein, who claimed that a lot of what his stuff was transactional? I mean, he was convicted of rape and sexual abuse. Again, juries didn't agree, but
he know better.
He painted a picture of a lot of kind of transactional relationships with people, right, where he believes this was all part of the sort of casting couch deal. That again has been, that's dinosaur stuff and was outrageous and wrong and everything else, and it turned out to be criminal as well. But I don't think there's much difference in the attitude.
There is a difference. I think hip hop has always come under fire for being quite sleazy. I mean, you can't listen to a hip hop track from 20 years ago without hearing the N-word or bitch. It's always been quite sleazy. They've always been quite actually vocal about the fact that they treat women like pieces of meat. And the women, a lot of the time, are happy to be treated that way because they get a lot from it.
Well, so that's interesting, isn't it, Vlad? Because that is part of that hip hop culture. There's no doubt. A lot of women have embraced that kind of very misogynist language.
They try and call it swinger. So back then and even currently, men are trying to make these women think that this is a swinger life. Be careful, ladies. Mothers teach your daughters different. Fair use reaction clip. Please continue to get the likes up, you guys. Please continue to double tap the screen to get the likes up. Thank you.
On and so on. Is your feeling about what happened here with Cassie Ventura and Diddy that she was, notwithstanding the violence which would erupt more than once, we know there were other occasions when he was violent to her, that she enjoyed her life around this superstar rapper, notwithstanding that?
I don't understand the question. Can you
that she...
So that's the other question. Did they catch video at his house of him doing something similar to Cassie? Did they catch other video of him doing something else to Cassie? So it was just the one hotel video? They grabbed stuff from his homes. And then allegedly they missed the home. Man, the feds, see, a lot of people are saying they fumbled it. Because certain things that was in his house, certain things that was at the hotel when he got arrested. Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue. It is what it is. The jury's made a decision, though.
accepted the violence and was prepared to stay in the relationship because she enjoyed everything else?
I think there was a very violent relationship. I think it was a drug-fueled relationship. I think there was lots of money and fame and jet-setting involved. At the end of the day, I think what happened to her was horrible. I think that tape showed just how bad the domestic violence was. But at the end of the day, this is not what the trial was about. The trial was about RICO. The trial was about sex trafficking. The trial was about prostitution. In fact, the only reason that he got convicted was because it was interstate commerce. All the other male escorts that I've talked to, like, for example, I talked to Don the dealer, who also had multiple sessions with Cassie. She said she was loving it. She was into it. She was setting the direction. At the end of the day, you could stay in a bad relationship, but you decide to stay in that bad relationship. This is really about the domestic violence. The domestic violence goes back past the statute of limitations. So if you think about it, in this whole case, all the escorts I talked to were not, sent to a different state or a different country. They were all local. Like Don.
So if it wasn't about that, why did they cover so much of that? Do you get what I'm saying? And it was past the statute of limitations. If it wasn't about that, why did they cover so much of that? Days in, days out, messages, talking about and showing video. That's why people were like, they dragged stuff on and they didn't make things clear for the jurors. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Dealer was in Miami. Punisher was in New York. If all these guys didn't travel across state lines, there'd be no case at all. None whatsoever. Yeah. And with Tony Busby, at the end of the day, like he said, that the feds talked to multiple people that he's representing that were suing, but they decided not to use any of them, which makes me think that there wasn't any real credible, real evidence that they actually did anything wrong in the whole situation. Therefore, there's...
That's a little shade to Attorney Busby, but let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Only 2 people that were actually used. The only person that filed a lawsuit that was used in this case was Cassie. And there's over 100 lawsuits. So what does that say? That's the lawsuits are all nonsense.
I listened to you.
Which of your clients was used in this case?
Let's be clear about something.
Which of your clients was used in this case?
Hey, listen very carefully. If the alleged assault happened in LA, there was nobody flown in, there was nobody coerced and trafficked across state lines, they wouldn't use the client, obviously. These cases that we have filed in New York are filed under a New York statute for sexual assault and sexual abuse. That's completely different than transportation for prostitution or for sexual trafficking, and certainly has nothing to do with RICO. So you just made this grand conclusion that, the U.S. attorney talked to a few of these folks that decided they had no credibility. You were flat out wrong in that respect. Because
none of them were used. How am I wrong if none of them were used?
Decided that there was nothing that happened across state lines, and there was no sexual trafficking, which is what the case was all about. So it has nothing to do with whether these people were credible or not. Their case is a civil case alleging state law claims of assault after being drugged. That was not the case that was brought by the U.S. attorney, and frankly, that's not a case that could be brought by the U.S. attorney. And which is
your own client accused Jay-Z and Diddy of raping her when she was 13. It was all nonsense. It was absolutely false. It was absolutely false. That good Charlotte was there. They weren't there.
You're like the mailman. You're like the mailman.
It was all nonsense. Jay-Z sued you over that. Come on. Like you have a long history, not credible people. You represent a long history.
All these broad
a long history.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Have you won a single lawsuit with any of these people you've represented? A single lawsuit.
Literally 30 days ago for $640 million, pal. So don't be telling me about winning lawsuits. We've more lawsuits than any lawyer in the United States.
Get him, Busby.
Here's how to be a video gamer forever.
Get him, Busby. DJ Vlad been called out a lot. I think people are saying that's probably why he on Piers Morgan. Because a lot of people are kind of saying, we're really not going to follow. And then allegedly, a lot of people that ends up on certain podcasts, they end up in jail a year later. So you got to be careful on the podcast you go on. You got to be careful what you say. Some of these people that ended up there, several, end up in jail a year later. Let's continue. Busby not standing down. And how much do Vlad know when he not the one that's working as an assistant? You haven't looked through those cases. Vlad don't know what evidence these attorneys have, but I'm doggone probably sure Busby's office better have some proof. If they gonna make those allegations, you better have police reports, you better have doctor's notes, doctor reports, everything. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Hold on, let me turn it back up.
How many lawsuits have you won against Diddy and Casey?
None went to trial yet, knucklehead. Think about it. They don't file a case go to trial. Wait and see.
And he know those civil suits couldn't move forward until this trial was done and over. He knows that. But see, he's not even going to address that. This is so concerning. But Vlad is something else. He wants to stay relevant so the people will come and do his interviews. And he's wrong for attacking Busby. He's an attorney, well-established attorney. Do I agree with everything that Busby do? No. Do I agree that they put that lawsuit out about Jay-Z? No. Because everybody was like, that's not making no sense. Everyday people was like, Attorney Busby, that's not making no sense. Her father don't recall. She got dropped off, and nobody at the gas station, wherever she was, got nobody called the police. You know what I'm saying? So I hope these cases that he is going to move forward with, they had to halt until after this trial. So Vlad should know that.
Okay, let me just jump. All right, look, the reality is we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out, Vlad. We're going to find out, Vlad, whether any of these civil cases do end up.
None of them will be won. Maybe one or two will be settled because of their headaches.
Okay,
there are over 100 people.
The one thing I do find very distasteful is there are reports that Diddy got a standing ovation in prison when he returned from this verdict. Because his lawyer said that they love the idea of him beating the feds. And, you know, when you watch the video of him beating up Cassie Ventura, the idea that guy becomes any kind of hero, I think would stick in all our gut. Can we agree on that?
He's not exactly an esteemed company. He's in a prison. So
but he shouldn't be treated as a hero.
Of course not. And I mean, some of the comments you've been reading online, I do think the prosecution failed Cassie in a way, because now we're having a debate about, you know, her motivations. Was she actually just, you know, in on all of this and just trying to...
But you know what, Esther, when I interviewed the Punisher, I really did change my view about this whole case.
But she was 9 months pregnant, testifying about the most grotesque things.
I know, but she also had taken a massive payout before.
Which she deserved. She deserved it.
Okay, but according to the Punisher, over 2 years, it was all driven by her, all consensual, and she was completely happy. And when he said that under oath, and then repeated it all to me, and I got to be honest with you, I slightly changed my view about the whole case.
And you got to remember, Diddy didn't do a lot of stuff. He had assistants to make breakfast, put the toothpaste a certain way. There's a lot of stuff he did not do on his own. There's a lot of stuff Diddy did not do on his own. So if Cassie was given an assignment, she was supposed to do that assignment for those 2 years or 3 years or whatever it was. Diddy wasn't going to get his hands dirty. Are people silly or ridiculous? So, of course, Cassie set up some of that stuff up. And she was on substances. Women, teach your daughters different. They don't have to be in the situation that Cassie was in. They don't have to stay in the situation that Cassie was in. Sometimes Cassie would have to go to hotels and heal from what was happening to her. That in itself is sad and sickening. We saw what happened when she tried to leave. Now, many people are saying, did Cassie have his phone? Did she have something of his? Whatever the situation was, he could have just held his hand out saying, Cassie, give it back. We saw what happened when she left. The whole situation, Cassie Diddy situation, toxic. What the employees experienced, toxic. Real talk. Real talk. Let's continue.
Based on his testimony. I thought that if that was indicative of what was really going on, then how much of a victim was she? She was a victim of domestic violence, but as Vlad said, that was not what Diddy was on trial for. Anyway, look, it's a fast.
Was she groomed? The whole case. Everybody's questioning how the case was written and the charges. Real talk. Okay, you guys. Well, I thank you. I appreciate you. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is used permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. If you have daughters, make sure they're not dating somebody like this. Make sure they're not in a situation like this. Check on your mothers. Check on your aunts. Check on your family members and men and women. Men go through stuff too. Nobody should have to be in some kind of toxic relationship. Real talk. This is a huge problem. Huge problem. And no employee should have to take a substance to show their loyalty. Real talk. Some of these events with Cassie and these men went on for days. Some of those employees had to stay up for days. You can't tell me, a lot of us work a 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever, work weekends. You telling me you stay up for your boss for 3 or 4 days? Okay, well, there's that. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. I'm sure people are going to be going off on Vlad like they always do. People are going to have their statements about Attorney Busby. And people are going to be talking about Superhead. This is the video I wanted to do yesterday, but I was too tired to do it. But I'm doing it now. So, right, wrong, or indifferent, wanted to bring this to you. This is what our page do. We talk about it. So thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21. And I appreciate all you for being here. And have a great day. Be blessed. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in.